Alright, so I've been flying the Black Bullet for about a month now. It's an incredible flyer, enormous fun. So I'm thinking about my next project because it's been a while since I've done any building, and of course I've got the itch, alright? So I want to do something like in the 30-something inch range. That seems to be the ideal size. And you know I like old timers if you watch my videos, and I've been thinking about it, procrastinating for a while. I was thinking maybe the Korda Victory. The part I don't like about that is the wing is kind of narrow, and it really has a big cabin. So I decided instead on another one I've been thinking about for a long time. It's Chet Lanzo's 1933 cabin, okay? Now, you know I made Chet Lanzo's Wakefield a few years ago. It was a great flyer. And there's really a bunch of things I like about this plane. All right, first of all, the wing is just about the same area as the Pacific Ace and the Black Bullet, and that's why I think they fly so well. Now, in the old days, what they did here is they used bamboo, which I got years back. And basically what you do is you heat it up and it softens the resin, and then you can bend it into shape, and it'll actually hold that form. It's very light, very stiff. You can sand it. All right, and I actually did this years back. If I remember, it took a little practice to try to get the hang of it. But what I'm going to do here is just laminated tips, okay? And the other thing I like about this plane is a lot of old timers only use just a bottom spar on the wing. And you know, it's just not as stiff, all right? Like the Black Bullet's like that. Even though it's a great plane, it only has this big bottom spar. But every modeler knows that if you have top spars, it's a lot stiffer and a lot stronger. So Chet obviously knew this as well. He's got like 3/16 on the top and a couple on the bottom. So even though I'm going to Mylar cover this wing, I think it'll be more than stiff enough. Okay, same structure in the stabilizer as well. Now this could take a 9.5 inch gizmo, but it has an 11 inch prop. I actually have the blank for this. All right, so I think I'm going to try the prop that Chet shows here. Okay. The other thing I was a little surprised is that the cabin is actually pretty small, which is nice. I mean, that means less drag and less weight. A lot of them, like the Victory, has a kind of big cabin, even though I like the way that looks. Okay, but here I think it's going to be light, and it'll really be a nice flyer. I would think. It's got everything I like here. Okay. So we're going to get going on this. Now I got the kit, the short kit from Bob Holman. All right, here it is. And it's really nice. I mean, I was surprised he gives you cutouts for the wingtips. Okay, you just got to sand them a little bit so I can make nice laminated wingtips. Now, for the rudder, I thought, why not? Might as well do it for the rudder as well. I just cut it out. So I usually make a little basswood form. I'll show you that. And then I'm going to make the rudder that way as well. Okay. It's hard to imagine Chet did this in 1933. I mean, the peak of the Depression is 1932. In certain ways, it's a great time for rubber power because it's incredibly inexpensive. You know, things like balsa and rubber. Okay, so I think this is a really nice looking design. I'm looking forward to getting to work on it, and we're going to get going. All right, so we started on the Lanzo. And the first thing I did is I took the wingtip forms, you know, that Bob provides, and I like to seal them up with a little bit of polyurethane. I put 2 coats on. That way, if you get a little water on them or something, it doesn't swell up, okay? The other thing I do is right before I put the laminated form on, I like to rub some crayon all around the edges of it, all right? That way the laminate doesn't stick to it. I also did one for the rudder. Why not? It's a lot stronger. The laminated is stiffer and stronger than just using the 1/8 inch sheet. Okay, so I did it there too. And actually that came out pretty nice. So I'm thinking I'll just do the rudder all in one piece here. All right, we'll see how that goes. And I also got the wing tips done and the stab tips done. So we're ready to go there. All right. While I was at it, I did a little work on the prop. I actually had a blank for a Lanzo prop. Here it is. Okay, so basically all you got to do is sand in a little airfoil and a little bit of undercamber. Okay, on mine I just put a little undercamber in. If you actually put a ruler on it, you'll see it's about a 32nd inch gap. And then I glue in some aluminum tubing in the middle. All right, and then I'm just going to put a few coats of dope on it and we'll be ready to go. Now, how thin you sand it depends on the density of the balsa. Okay, Superior Props is nice because they tell you what the density is. I mean, Volare actually. And on this one, it was very low density. It was less than 6 pounds. So, I didn't sand it too thin. I had another one for Korda Victory. Here's what the blank originally looked like. Okay, this is a lower density one, but I had one that was very high density. It was like 15 pounds. So I don't know if you could see it, but I actually sanded this very thin. Okay. So it actually only weighs a couple grams more than the very light one. all right? And again, I put a little undercamber in and a little bit of airfoil in the top. One thing I noticed just checking the pitch is the Lanzo, it's pretty close to about a one pitch diameter ratio. And I think because it's a pretty big prop, at 11 inch for 30 inch wingspan, so he put a little lower pitch on it, and I think that's probably the right thing to do. The Korda Victory has a little higher pitch, it's about 1.3, okay? So I might experiment with that as well. Now also the wheels, there's a couple things you could do with the wheels. You could put a tube in, or you could put a little bushing in. I've done that before. I've done it a few different ways. This time what I did, because I really want to have strong wheels, is I just took a nose button basically and glued it in. This was a wood one. You could do it with the plastic one too. If you want, you could trim the other side off. But you know, if you ever watch my videos, I'm landing on concrete, so I really need strong wheels. So I just left the whole nose button on, and this way it's nice and strong, and you know, nothing's going to happen there. Okay, so we got all that done, so I guess I'll start working on the rest of it, and we'll see how that goes. All right, it's been a few months, but I'm finally working on the cabin for the Lanzo, okay? Now, for the longerons, as I've mentioned before, I like to use pretty medium hard, all right? And sometimes you have trouble bending them, but here it has very gentle curve on the bottom. That wasn't a problem. Also, the back is pretty gentle. That wasn't a problem either. But on the front there, you could bend it, but it kind of was had some stress. I didn't want to put stress on it because it might distort the shape. So what I did is, once again, I just soaked it like this, and I wrapped it around, this is another wingtip form, okay? And then you can see it perfectly, has the shape there without, putting any stress on the structure, okay? So I'm going to finish up this side, then I'm going to sand it lightly just to get it nice and smooth and even, all right? And as I've mentioned before, I like to have it so the side that's facing up is the outside. So what I'm going to do next is I'll take it off the plan, then I'll remove the plan, all right? Then I'll flip it over the other way, cover it with a piece of saran wrap, and then I'll build the other half right on top of this half, all right? Facing the other way, okay? So we're going to keep working on this and get it done. All right, so I'm working on the Lanzo cabin, and I like to try different jigs. I've used the Bob Holman jig a whole bunch of times. So this time I tried a jig from Retro RC, okay? It consists of a bunch of fixed uprights, all right? I'd also recommend getting two. They have adjustable ones. Then it uses a carbon rod to keep them all nice and aligned, okay? And then it has rare earth magnets you can buy separately. And that way, it stays nice on my magna board here, okay? And there's a few things I like about this, all right? First of all, you don't need the really big board, so it's very compact. Second of all, you can just do it right on the plan, okay? And third, it's nice and open, so you can sight from many different angles to make sure you have everything perfectly aligned, all right? Now, the crucial part is getting the first two cross pieces in. So I start in the middle, and then I work my way forward and back, okay? And you really got to make sure those first two, everything is perfect and perfectly aligned. Then I let it dry at least an hour, hour and a half to make sure it's nice and solid. And then the rest of the pieces will go in pretty quick, okay? In the back, I just used a very light rubber clamp like this, all right? It's very light pressure, just to hold it and make sure it's aligned, okay? Now, the other thing I do is with the cross pieces, I cut them in pairs. So what I do is I cut them to the plan, all right, slightly oversized, like a 32nd inch, and then I sand them together, okay, so because it's really important that you have those exactly the same size, all right, and if you do that with the top and bottom, then it'll be perfectly square, okay. Then what I do is I just put a little glue on the end of the cross piece, and I also like to just put a little bit of glue where it's going to go in position, and for that I just use a skewer here, okay. This is nice, it gives you a nice reach and you can get in wherever you want if you want to put a little bit of glue. We still got a few more pieces to put in to get it done, not quite there yet, so I'm going to finish this up, and then I think I'll get working on the stabilizer. All right, so we're working on the Lanzo here. I pretty much got the wing done. Okay, we're gonna get covering that. It's exactly as shown on the plan, except I put some gussets in the middle to reinforce it a little bit. Here's the stab. That's also ready to go. I think it came out pretty nice. Over here we have the rudder, all right? And I really like using these little Mylar hinges. It's 0.2 millimeter Mylar. It makes a nice hinge and it's very light. So you can see I put a little fin on there, so that's ready to go, okay? We also finished the cabin. All right. I put a little compartment for the equipment. It's got to be a little tight, but I think I can get everything in there, including an altimeter. For the bottom, I made the usual slot and hold down for the wheels. I like the way that works. Okay, the only thing I'm doing different here these days is before I was using a hardwood insert, but now I just use a balsa insert. I glue the wire to it with 5-minute epoxy, but a couple times when I hit the pavement hard, it got loose. So now you can, I'm not sure you can see it, but I wrap it with Kevlar thread and then I soak in a little bit of thin CA. That's why I just use balsa. You don't really need it anymore. All right, so that just slips right in the bottom there and locks in. I got the tail skid in. Okay, I like to put that in nice and solid because, you know, I am landing on concrete. I got the rear peg, and I also put a little extra piece so I can, you know, have a little opening where the rear peg goes. Nice surprise about that is it's really nice and wide. It's almost like Chet designed this for a half tube. This is one of the only old timers I've done so far where I could actually put the rear peg as shown all the way back on the plan, and there's plenty of room for my half tube. So I was really happy about that. The only other thing I've done, I'm not sure I've mentioned this before, is in the front you can see it kind of curves in here. So where the nose block sits, you know, it's not going to be level really. It's only going to get on the edges. So what I always do is I take a 1/16, I took an 1/8 by 1/4 and I put it on the sides and the bottom. And then I sand it so it's flat. Okay, so this way, you know, the nose plug has a nice flat thing to go into. I leave it on the top because if you hit the ground, it doesn't hurt to have it a little loose. It'll knock it out like that. But it's really important to have a nice snug fit on the sides. You don't want any wobbling, you know, otherwise when you launch under full power, man, you're going to have problems. So that's the nose plug has really got to sit in there nice and firm. Okay, so we're going to get covering. I'm going to use a 1/3 mil Mylar on the wing and a 1/4 mil on the stab and the rudder. And the cabin I'll use a polyspan light just like I did before. Alright, so I'm working on the front end. Now in this size plane I like to use a coupe hook like this. And if you do that you got to make a little adapter for the front. So here's how I do it. I take a piece of 1/8 inch brass tubing and I drill a 30-second hole in the end. Then I slip in a piece of 30-second wire and I silver solder it in place. And that allows you to hook on here and then it twists and it locks in. Okay, it's very nice. There's no wobble at all with this. Then I bend a little square. Should probably make it a little smaller, but that's what I did. And then this is a 1/16 inch wire. Then I drill a hole, okay? And then I solder it again. I like to have the wire go right through so even if the solder fails, it's not going to pull off, all right? Then I notch the back of the tube and then I silver solder it to the back part, okay? Then you got a screw, all right? It's not as smooth as the gizmo. It goes click, 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 then it stops, but it works. Now for the freewheel part, years ago what I used to use the most is this. It's called the Garami after Lou Garami. And basically what happens is there's a little wire and this kind of folds back, folds up like this, and it goes into freewheel mode. The part I like about this is it's 100% reliable. I've never had problems with this at all. You have to rubber band on the nose block if you use this because it's going to fall off otherwise. Now you can make a tension version by soldering some brass tubing here, a brass washer, and putting a spring behind it, and in essence that's what I did on the freewheel, okay? The only difference is that I wanted to make sure that the prop was completely removable, alright? So here's what I did. I have a gizmo nose button, okay? Then I got an aluminum wheel collar. It has a little set screw and that goes on the shaft. Alright, and the reason I did that is, you know, I tried it with the spring in the front and the back, but it puts pressure on the prop and that's drag and it doesn't freewheel as well, okay? This way there's no pressure on the prop, and there you can see the prop is nicely balanced, and so it freewheels really nicely, alright? In the front is a superior little freewheel mechanism, so in one direction it pushes on the wire, and that's all you got to do in the prop is put that wire on, and then in the other direction it folds back a little bit and so it freewheels, okay? And that also has a little set screw, all right? Now I've used these set screws many times before. I mean, at first I used to worry, what if that pulls off? That would be a disaster, but I've never had any problems. So here you can see I've used it on a folder here. This is a drive dog, has a set screw. I've used it on these Z-bars, all right? This is also for a folder, has a set screw. And all you gotta remember to do is make a little notch where the screw goes, okay, in the wire. You just notch the wire just a little bit, so the screw goes into it, and I've never had a failure. It's just never been a problem, okay? Now, of course, as part of your flight check routine, you should make sure that you check the screws when you first get to the field. That's all I do, all right? So I think this is going to make a nice freewheel mechanism. We'll see how it works, okay? And I'm going to get back to the plane now. We're going to get covering and see how that goes. Alright, the Lanzo cabin, all done, ready to go. Now it took me about 5 months, but you know, I purposely took my time. I mean, if you're in a rush, you could probably build it in a few weeks, okay? I took a little chance on the color scheme here. Now, Design Master Floral has a series that they call Just for Flowers, and it's transparent. I did some tests, but you know, even then I wasn't sure how it was going to look. But I like it. I wanted to make sure the color showed up, and it did, alright? So the wing I covered with a 1/3 mil Mylar. It's a little stronger in my experience, so I like to do that. The stab and rudder are both a 1/4 mil Mylar, alright? And the cabin I used Polyspan Light. Now I have to say, this Polyspan Light was a little higher quality than what I've gotten before. I got this from Mike Woodhouse, so it was really, really nice. The only change I made is he has some diagonals here which he puts as a 16 square, but I made those 16 by 3/32, and also I added 2 right here because the tail felt a little flexible to me and I wanted to make sure that, you know, it's nice and stiff, okay? So we got the equipment in there, we got the push rod in there, it's all ready to go. We got the freewheel, we'll see how that works. Total weight was 52.3 grams, so that's about 4 grams lighter than my Pacific Ace, okay? With the equipment all up ready to go, it was about 60.8 grams, so that's the flying weight. So I think that's alright, okay, for an RC rubber. Alright, so we're going to get out, see how it flies. It's a nice design. I like Chet's designs. He's got nice structure. And, you know, it went together really, really nice. I had a good time building it. I think it's nice looking too, okay? So we're going to get out and do some flying, see how that goes. Alright, first test, 150 hand winds. Keep your fingers crossed. Here we go. Ah. Oh, that looks good. Wow, right off the bat. Look at that. Jeez. Nice. All right, second test, 250 hand winds. Oh, a little down thrust. Boy, oh boy, though. I can't believe it. What a nice plane. Wow. Ooh, looks nice. Gee, I like that color. Whew. Very nice. All right, I added a little down and right thrust. Let's see what that does. Oh yeah, that's better. Very nice. A little breezy, but handles it good. Okay, here we go. Wow. Very nice. Ooh, it's nice against the clouds. Well, we don't even have to wind it all the way. We're getting great flights. Very nice. Perfect.